to try to ask me real, incisive questions rather than just giving me shit. Right? Any questions at all? Yes.
Not really about the content of the show. I love the message and the way you're evolution. I'd love more people to see this. I'm wondering, do you target students of science, biology, colleges, or to get that message out to people that are more impressionable and that would have an interest in science?
How do we inculcate the youth? Yeah, we have reached out to the sort of local colleges and spoken to some of the biology professors who are sometimes arranging discounts and things. I mean, teenagers and people in their young 20s are not the main theater-going public in general, the demographic that buys theater tickets. But the show is going to be touring colleges next year and performing arts centers, hopefully in places where evolution is slightly more controversial than it is here. Because the idea is really to be provocative and be a gadfly. And here, you guys are the choir that I'm preaching to right now. So yeah, definitely that's going to be what's happening next year. And besides that, just if you know anybody who's a science educator or who has teenage kids or whatever, it's just about word of mouth and spreading the word, really. And there also are YouTube videos online for this. Although that doesn't help to fill up the house, but maybe it does. Maybe somebody sees a little tip and maybe wants to see more. Second question I see right there.
That virtual discussion you had with your cousins and your sister about the different views of things, would you say they disagree with the idea of don't sleep with mean people, or do you all kind of end up in the same place?
I think don't sleep with mean people is common ground in that discussion, just for different reasons, I guess. Yeah. I don't think my cousins would accept the evolutionary rationale for not sleeping with mean people, like for the purpose of sort of screening mean genes out of future generations of human populations. But they could see that's the nice thing about that sort of, that unifying message, is that it doesn't just have a genetic component. It isn't just about sort of, selecting against mean or aggressive or self-interested genes. It's also about, there's a behavioralist component as well. Because when mean people realize that they're not going to get laid by acting that way, then they'll adjust their behavior. And people are very malleable in their behavior, but I would say not quite infinitely malleable. That's where the evolutionary psychology component comes in. I mean, clearly people have an attraction to meanness, especially girls to bad boys. And otherwise you wouldn't need an anthem, right? But that's not the only thing we're attracted to. And I think my sister and my cousins would appreciate that, although I'm not sure if I've really actually asked about getting their endorsement for that song. The song was specifically written for the Broadway run because it used to be just a line, just that one line in the final piece where I said, if we want things to improve, all we need to do is not sleep with mean people. Enough people came up to me after the show and said, great show, but that mean people thing, that's a great idea. So then I was like, all right, we need to sing a song. And then that became the big conclusion piece. That's fairly new, that's for you guys, that's a New York thing. Yeah. And I'm going to say last question right here.
How do dictatorships fit into all of this?
How do dictatorships fit in?
Tyrannies.
Well, I mean, how does self-interested, abusive, or dictatorial behavior fit into the natural world? It's ubiquitous in the natural world, and it has to do with alpha status amongst social animals. And gorillas, chimpanzees, most primate species, there's an alpha male. It's just that there's not. In some primate species, there's alpha females as well. Although our closest relatives, well, actually, the bonobos have alpha females and the chimps have alpha males, so it's hard to say which one is the natural condition. Probably isn't a natural condition, it's context-based. But in our species, sexual dimorphism suggests, because of the sort of extra height and weight of males, that it was probably males that were alpha throughout history, most of our evolutionary history. And what dictatorships are is basically post-agricultural opportunities to amass huge amounts of wealth and resources under the psychology of the alpha male strategy, which is to manipulate and dominate resources and form coalitions to hold on to power, usually in evolutionary history just in the context of small troops of 100 or 150, which is what they think humans evolved from because of hunter-gatherers. And this is just a sort of evolutionary novelty where there's massive resource surpluses and division of labor that can be dominated by an individual who can then impose the will on the whole culture. So it does sort of fit into the evolved psychology, but there weren't dictatorships before 15,000 years ago because there weren't people all settled in one place to be a dictator over. And also, from looking at hunter-gatherers, it seems like people have a strong egalitarian instinct. So when there's a small troop or a band or a tribe or whatever, they're constantly trying to suppress arrogance and suppress grandstanding. And if somebody comes back from a hunt and brags about it, and everybody says, oh, you're not a good hunter, you just got lucky or whatever. And there's these sort of internal mechanisms for trying to prevent the dictatorship from occurring, and it seems only to occur actually in places where there's sedentary living and surplus resources to dominate. That's from what I've read, the historical take on it. So, Guns, Germs, and Steel, Blank Slate, and I'm looking forward to Steven Pinker's new book, which I haven't read, but The Better Angels of Our Nature, which is about that concept as well. And how there's going to be less and less of them in the future, which I think is a good thing. Thank you for your questions. To close us out for the night, I want to try to tell you guys how an evolutionary rap song gets written in the first place. Alright? Early drafts of my lyrics of these songs, they're really simplistic. They go like this. Yo, yo, the origin of species ain't no feces, dog, believe me. What? That's all I can think of. So then I'm like, oh shit, these lyrics really need to be rewritten. And sometimes people ask me, okay, well, how does the show get written? Like this. Performance, feedback, revision. And how do I generally develop my lyricism? Like this. Performance, feedback, revision. And how do human beings ever learn to do anything? Same way. Performance, feedback, revision. And evolution is really just kind of an algorithm that goes like this. Performance, feedback, revision. So the genetic code of every living creature was also written like this. Performance, feedback, revision. See, the genes are like a text with 100,000 pages. And the revisions occur in the little random changes that come from mutations. And then when they see the light, well, that's the performance. They call that the phenotype. And natural selection, well, that's the feedback side. That's about who survives and whose genes catch rise in the next generation. Yes, what I'm saying is that a rap performance like this is the best illustration for the way that descent with modification works. Because the performance is necessary to change the words, to decide which have an impact and which to send back to the drawing board. In fact, I just did that when you guys failed to react. Because any line can change, and the mutations occur when I improvise on stage. Because up until this moment, everything I said was off the page. But now I'm going to switch it. I'll do a freestyle session. I'll try to keep it really specific so I can beat your cheater detection. Alright, this is freestyle. Improvise, I sue you. My sister's got a nice boyfriend, but she didn't seek my approval. That's alright. See, she's a genius, and she picks guys not on the context of meanness, even though sometimes my concept, she doesn't want to fuck with it. Yes, she is a social constructivist. Yeah, that's right. That's the way I dive in the groove. The meanest thing is on board with my creationist cousins too. Seriously, this is the way that I freestyle mysteriously. But you guys are not laughing, so I guess not hilariously. Shit, come on. This is the way that I break the shit, like a potato chip. Your question was all about dictatorship. Yes, indeed. I'm like, yeah, bring it on. 14% of Asia was descended from Genghis Khan. There's your reason right there for the existence of it. For some fucking reason, it seems like the women love it. But, not always, though, you know? This is the way that I flip up this improv throw. Even if I make a little mistake over the rhythm, that's cool. That's how I introduce randomness into the system. See? These are instant mutations that I'm quickly now making on my neural brain waves. I could be a nice guy and sometimes a mean guy on the same day. That's the way that I said it, which means basically human behavior is schizophrenic. Yeah, that's right. This is the stuff that I say. There's no page. Right now, I'm a dictator. I dominate the stage. But maybe dominate the Broadway scene. Fucking all these empty seats. People are not always keen with the intellectual stuff. That's how I'm mixing it up. I'm like, this is the way that I'm trying to get to action with the rapping. I agree, we need to find some teenagers and get them strapped in, right? Like an experimentation. This is the way that I'm manipulating, like a Skinner box. This is improv, straight up, improvised hip-hop. See, this is my concept right now. This is my little system. It goes like this: performance, feedback, revision. If you guys want to know about evolution, this here is the definition. It's simple. It goes performance, feedback, revision. You can use this concept to learn how to do anything. So say it with me. Performance, feedback, revision. Memorize it. Performance, feedback, revision. One more time. Performance, feedback, revision.